Hey everyone, Percy here. Welcome to Super C. So today we're going to talk about Studio One. Still my main DAW, still my number one, even though I've also been messing around with Bitwig a little bit lately. Still Studio One is my favorite DAW. But here's the thing, Studio One has had a reputation for a while of being one of the most innovative DAWs out there, one of the best in terms of ease of use, user friendliness and things like that. But I'm slowly starting to wonder, how true is that still? We're seeing new versions of other DAWs with new features that Studio One does not have. I mean, are they starting to fall behind a little bit? Now, of course, PreSonus hasn't released a major update of Studio One for a while now. And if we take a look at the release history, we're seeing that a new major update has been released every 2 to 3 years. Now, the last release of a major update was version 5, was released on July 7th, 2020. That is over 2 years ago. And of course, speculations have started on, first of all, when a new version might be released, a new major version, over 2 years ago, so it could happen any moment now. But some people have also started to speculate on what new features could possibly be added to Studio One 6, or what new features should definitely be added to Studio One 6. So I thought, you know what, let me just make a little list of some features that I think would make great additions to a new version of Studio One 6 in this case. So here's my top 11 new feature requests. Now the first one on the list is something that I've mentioned several times before. It's actually my number one feature request personally. And that is live looping features. So clip launching, basically. Now, other DAWs have had this for a while. I mean, of course, Ableton Live has had this for several years. Bitwig also. Logic Pro has implemented this not too long ago. Also, Digital Performer did the same. I'm probably leaving out some others. And I think that Studio One can no longer ignore this. Especially because Studio One offers something called the show page. Now, the show page is all about live performances. Now, if you're talking about live performances, then I think that live looping features should be a part of it nowadays. So I think it would make a perfect addition to the show page. And I don't care, even if they make an entirely new page for this, I don't care about that. But I think if they would implement this, I think that Studio One would kind of become the king of live performances. Now, speaking of the show page and Studio One being the king of live performances, I may have been a little bit hasty there because in my opinion there is still one little feature missing on the show page, or at least as far as I know. Let me know if I'm wrong. It would be great, of course, and some people may even say it would be necessary for us to be able to record our sessions when we're playing live. And as it stands now, as far as I know, there is no way to do that. So there is no record button on the show page. Would be my second request. Okay, next up we have modular devices. Now, Studio One already comes with some pretty decent instruments and also some very good effects plugins built in. But sometimes people want a little bit more control. Now, for example, Bitwig comes with a feature called the Grid. Now, the Grid is a modular environment where people can basically build their own instruments and build their own effects from the ground up. Ableton Live comes with something pretty similar called Max for Live. So endless possibilities, and especially in terms of sound design, tweaking sounds, etc. Now, to be perfectly honest, personally, I've never really gotten into modular synthesis and things like that, or at least not yet. And many people haven't. Many people don't need it. Still, I think that if PreSonus wants Studio One to keep up and not fall behind, and this is probably primarily going to be true within the realm of electronic music, I think maybe they should consider adding a similar feature to Studio One. Okay, next up we have modulators. Now again, let's take Bitwig as an example. Bitwig has this feature, but also Cubase has something similar to this. Now, modulators, what they do is they basically modulate things. So they can add some movement to the sound in certain ways. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff with them. Speaking of having more control over the sound and the behavior of sounds. So yeah, I would definitely think that this or something like this would make a great addition to Studio One. Okay, moving on. Now, we all love the Arranger track, right? Now, for those of you that don't know, the Arranger track lets you very easily move or copy or delete entire sections within your song. So it makes it very easy to arrange your song or rearrange your song with. There is a little problem though, and this is a problem not just with the arranger track and also not just with Studio One, but basically with every DAW out there, because I haven't found any DAW yet that has solved this problem. If you know of one, let me know. So if you have a song where everything starts on the downbeat or maybe a little bit later, this feature, the arranger track, is going to be perfect. You can move stuff, you can copy, paste, perfect. However, in my experience, most of the songs I work on always have some tracks or parts that start just before the downbeat. They start a little bit early. Now this feature doesn't handle that very well because it doesn't recognize it. Now, of course, I know this is a bit of a complicated issue, but it would be so amazing if somehow the people at PreSonus would figure out a way for us to deal with this. You know, maybe, I don't know, maybe we could tell the arranger track, okay, if you're going to copy this section, pay attention to this track because this starts a little bit early. Pay attention to that. I don't know how exactly, but it would be awesome if they would somehow figure this out. Okay, moving on. Now, I saw someone mention this online somewhere, and it concerns the project page. Now, again, project page, another great feature in Studio One. For those of you that don't know, project page is basically an entire mastering suite built into the program. Awesome. However, there is one thing that we don't seem to be able to do, and that is to use automation. Now, I know that automation is not commonly used or not used a lot in the mastering stage. Still, I think it should be available to us. So that's my next feature request. Okay, the next request is inspired by a feature in Logic Pro, which is called Track Alternatives. And it's basically exactly as the title suggests. So it allows you to make alternate recordings on one and the same track. You can also arrange it differently. You can switch between them at any time. And of course, this allows you to experiment a little bit. And that, of course, is very useful, especially in the beginning stages of creating a song. Now, of course, Studio One already allows for some experimenting, especially with something called the scratch pad, but also with the arranger track, as I mentioned before. But I think that this would definitely make a super useful addition. Okay, next up we have two features. Not even sure if you can call them features. It's more like a compatibility thing. So first of all, it would be nice if there was a mobile version of Studio One. Now we're seeing some examples by Cubase, for example. So Cubase has Cubasis. Cubasis is basically the mobile version of Cubase. Also, FL Studio has a mobile version. And again, if you want to stay ahead of the game. Now, and then the other compatibility feature, this is quite a big one to ask. It's probably not going to be a priority at PreSonus. Still would like to mention it. It is Linux support. Now, I know Linux, the market share is very, very small in comparison to Windows and iOS. Probably financially, it's not going to be very interesting at first, at least. It would help them to stand out a little bit, though. I don't know of many other of the big DAWs that have Linux support. I know Reaper, I know Bitwig, that's about it. So, no priority, I understand. Would be cool, though. Okay, and then finally, the last one is a little bonus feature request. Kind of more like a little annoyance that I have. And for that, let's go into Studio One. So here we are in Studio One. Let's open the mixer. And this is what the mixer looks like, or at least when it's docked. Of course, we can also detach it, and it looks like this. We can watch it in full screen, but that's not what I'm talking about, because this is how I use the mixer most of the time. Now, when it's docked, there are two ways of showing the effects. So the insert effects and send effects. Now, one way, which is, I would say, the more classical way, is for them to show up on top of everything like this. Okay, but in Studio One, there's another way of showing them, and that is to the right of the tracks. If we press this button, you will achieve that. Let's do that. And now we can open them up like this. And as you can see, now the effects are showing to the right of the track. Now, this is how I typically use it. Not sure why, it's just my preference. Now, in a real life situation, I'll probably also open this one, and then this one, and then maybe this one, and then this one, and here, and this one, and so on, and so on. Now, as you can see, it's taking up quite a bit of space. And I sometimes get to a situation where I want to collapse all of them. And I can do that. I can collapse this one, and this one, and this one, you know, but I would have to do them one by one, you know, and that is just a little bit annoying. Why isn't there an option for me to collapse all of them with one push of a button? Or maybe collapse all of them but one, or only open the one that I've selected. Why not? Why not? Please add this to Studio One. So that is my little annoyance, and that concludes my 11 feature requests that I hope PreSonus will add to the next major version of Studio One, Studio One 6. Maybe they will also add some features that I haven't even thought of. They're usually pretty good at that. So very excited to see what it will be in the end. Now, if there are any other features that you would like to see in Studio One 6, let me know, leave a comment below. I'm very interested in what you think, of course. But anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you in the next video.